Hello everyone, welcome back to Real Life. I hope you're having a great day. Before we start, last week's episode 1102 created quite a lot of interest. I was informed by several individuals of an error I made. The helicopter shown was misidentified and is not the current Bell 212 flying in northeast BC, but a Bell 214B that was tragically lost in 1983 in the Bugaboos. I missed an important Transport Canada historical document in my research, and I apologize for the error. I would never exploit a tragedy of this nature. Thank you for understanding. Today we're going back to Osoyoos, this time in 1965 and 68, once again with Gavin Wilkie behind the viewfinder of his trusty 8mm film camera. Young Brent Wilkie entertained himself in a trench that he dug across the sandspit at Haynes Point campsite. The Wilkie family became friends with a few local families over the years in Osoyoos, and one was the Lang family. Brett is target shooting in Lang's backyard with a pellet rifle. He remembers being cautioned about being careful and not letting any stray pellets damage the fruit in the Lang family orchards below the yard. The yard was on the west side of the lake and had a great view of the lake, mountains, and Haynes Point Park below. The Wilkies socialized in the Lang's backyard, and like so many families then and today, were often treated to barbecues on warm summer days. The sound of distant speedboats on the lake, the smoky, mouth-watering aroma of sizzling burgers and hot dogs on the grill, with cool grass under our feet, can be some of our fondest childhood memories. When children are young, almost every new experience is full of wonder. Donning a personal flotation device and taking a brief ride in a small outboard-powered boat with your siblings is likely a thrill at this tender age. The Wilkie family learned their love of the southern Okanagan from spending their early teaching years in the 1940s. Both parents were school teachers, teaching children in the schools at Deep Creek, Kettle Valley, Rock Creek, and Minecaster. They shared stories with their sons in later years of the frightening rail trips they took on the Kettle Valley Railway to get to the interior back in the day. Osoyoos was the yearly camping destination for the family from the mid-1950s through to about 1970, but there were excursions to other interior lakes as well. In the early days, it was mom and dad and 4 kids packed into a cabin tent at various campgrounds on the west shores of Osoyoos Lake. But as the older brothers started to outgrow traveling with their parents, there were fewer of them to accommodate, so it became a little easier to just rent cabins starting in the mid-60s. Their favorite campsites were Willows Beach Campsite, where Safari Beach Motel now stands, Haynes Point, and the other was Shady Lagoon Campsite, located just below the U.S.-Canada border. John Oliver became BC's 19th Premier in 1918. A farmer and former Minister of Agriculture and Railways, he and the government of the day developed the produce industry in the Okanagan Valley and tried to persuade the federal government to lower the freight rate for all rail transport. His government was responsible for a major irrigation project in the 1920s. Numerous flumes were constructed following the contours of the hillsides, which made farming feasible in this territory. The hot, dry climate meant that many types of fruit and vegetables previously only grown in California could be grown in Canada. These fascinating little facts all interconnect and help to tell and shape the story of the economic development of BC. Without the foresight of Premier John Oliver a century ago, tourism and the lifestyle it has developed likely would not be as significant in the Okanagan as it has proven. Brett, his mom, and his friends are putting their feet in the cool water of the little waterfall that was just steps away from the Safari Beach Motel. The waterfall was possibly the outflow from the irrigation flume that ran along the mountainside. Perhaps someone has a better recollection. As the parents became more affluent and perhaps a bit tired of setting up tents, a switch to cabins and motels seemed like a good idea. The Sahara Motel, named likely in part to its more famous Las Vegas counterpart, albeit that one was a little bit bigger with more movie stars visiting. The Sahara in Osoyoos was quite spiffy with 2 pools, air conditioning, televisions in every suite, and even kitchens, all the better for home-cooked meals. The Sahara Motel was a bit of a luxury for the family to stay there, and having an inner courtyard with a real pool was always a treat. The flimsy dock, with the waves rolling in, was close to the Sahara on the north-facing shore of what was locally known as Motel Row. Just a mile or two north of downtown Osoyoos, the family rented Mr. Matthews' little yellow cabin. The cabin was very small, so the brothers stayed in a small tent on the property grounds while the parents resided in the cabin. The comfortable little cabin was situated just below the railroad tracks we see through the windshield of the Mercedes entering the Matthews property. This white-flagged extra train heading south to the Osoyoos station provided young Brett with some entertainment. Like most boys in the day, he would often place pennies on the rail to be flattened by the heavy engine. Number 8603 was a 1954-built Fairbanks Moore 1600 horsepower H1666 baby trainmaster. These powerful locomotives spent most of their 20-year existence in southern BC and were serviced in Nelson. Number 8603 was retired in 1975. CP's southernmost tracks in the Okanagan Valley of British Columbia was the Osoyoos subdivision from Penticton south to Osoyoos, just north of the BC-Washington border. The need for a railway to transport the produce to market was recognized, and in 1923 the central portions of the CPR Osoyoos sub were completed. A tug and barge operated at Sahara Lakes between Okanagan Falls and South Penticton until the rail line along the shore of the lake was completed in 1931. The southernmost portion of the branch line was only completed to Osoyoos in 1944. The Osoyoos subdivision survived solely on produce traffic until a large sawmill was built at Okanagan Falls in 1971. This was the salvation of the line, as the produce traffic vanished after 1972 when CP and the packing houses opted to use CP's trucking company, CP Transport, to transport the produce to market. The Osoyoos subdivision was abandoned south of Okanagan Falls in 1978. Nothing remains of it today. For you car aficionados, the white car is a 1966 250S Mercedes. The Wilkie family dog is in on the action. Their dog loved to play with a soccer ball and would always join the family in a swim. The family relaxed in the cool shade of a willow tree. These large, thirsty trees line the shores of most Okanagan lakes. I hope you've enjoyed this little trip back in time. Perhaps it's brought back warm memories of your own vacations in the Okanagan or elsewhere. I'm always looking for old reels from anywhere, but especially British Columbia. The older and more obscure, the better. Restoring and preserving these old reels is a joy. Sharing their stories with you is a pleasure. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Be kind, and we'll see you next time on Real Life.